yourself, using stuff right from your shelf.
And with remote control,
You control the action,
stop and go.
having fun with my first.
Step-by-step activity videos.
Welcome to my first nature video. This video has lots of exciting things to make and do. There are more than 12 projects altogether. Some of them are indoor projects, some are outdoor ones. But first, here is a quick guide to help you use this video. At the beginning of each project, we will show you all the things you will need to do the project yourself. Make a list of these things so you can gather them together before you start. Use the pause button on your video cassette recorder to give yourself time to write everything down. Another good idea is to put on an apron or an old shirt to protect your clothes. Always be careful with plants and animals, especially indoors where they rely on you for food and water. When you have finished a project, remember to put everything away and clean up any mess. You can learn a lot about nature by making notes and drawings and by collecting things. To do this, you will need a nature kit. Envelopes for collecting things like seeds, plastic bags and ties for plant specimens, and sticky labels. Old pots and jars for collecting insects. Make sure they have holes in their lids or cloth covers so the insects can breathe. Tweezers are useful for picking up delicate things. And a paintbrush is useful for picking up caterpillars. A magnifying glass will come in handy. So will string and a pair of scissors. Always be careful with sharp utensils. And why not keep notes and drawings in your own nature diary? The first project. Your nature collections will look much better if they're displayed well. So here is a very easy way to make your own showcases. These are the things you will need. 6 empty large matchboxes, some colored cardboard, a pen, pencil, and glue stick, a ruler and pair of scissors, and lastly some cotton batting and clean sand. And this is what you do. Start by gluing 3 of the boxes together. Like this. Glue 3 other boxes together in the same way. Then take the 2 rows of boxes and stick them together. There are now 12 compartments. You might want to make a bigger compartment. Just glue down one of the partitions like this. Now you will need a thick piece of colored cardboard as a backing for the showcase. It needs to be a little wider and longer than the boxes, so measure the case carefully. Put some cotton batting into each compartment, and your showcase is ready for your collection. Here are some polished stones and pebbles. Some of the things you have found might need cleaning. Wash them under running water with an old toothbrush, but make sure they're dry before putting them in the case. Now there is a collection you'll be proud to display. Finally, you might want to label your finds. Cut out little pieces of thin cardboard and then fold them in half. Then simply glue them to the partitions between the boxes. You could make nature showcases for all kinds of things. Here's a collection of shells from the seaside. This showcase has been lined with sand instead of cotton batting. Just about every plant you can think of grows from a seed, from the tiniest flower to the tallest tree. In this next project, we show you how to plant seeds and then watch them grow. These are the things you will need: some blotting paper, glasses and a jug of water, some seeds, flower pots, a mixing bowl, some potting soil and a trowel, plastic bags with ties, plant labels, cotton batting, some eggshells and watercress seeds, poster paints, a paintbrush, a pencil, knife, and a pair of scissors. In the summer, you can collect all kinds of seeds outside. These beans are seeds that we eat, and you should be able to find them at any time of the year in the supermarket. The fruits we eat have seeds in them too. Some seeds are tiny, others large. The single pit of an avocado is a huge seed. Just think, with care and attention, one day it could grow into an avocado tree. Now let's plant something. Start by mixing some potting soil with water to make it moist. Now fill some small pots with the soil. Then take some seeds, these are from an apple, and push them about a half an inch into the soil. Label each pot so that you know which kinds of seeds you have planted. Then put each flower pot inside a plastic bag. This will help keep the pot warm, just like a mini greenhouse, and will encourage your seeds to sprout. Tie it up. Keep your pots in a warm, light place and check them every day to make sure they don't dry out. When the seeds start to grow, take the pot out of the bag. Here is a tomato seedling that is growing well. As well as keeping the soil moist, it's a good idea to turn the plant every day or so to help it grow straight, especially if it's on a windowsill. Keep notes in your nature diary of when you plant your seeds and how quickly they grow. You can actually see how a seed grows by carrying out a very easy experiment. All you need is some blotting paper, a glass or jar, some water, and some beans. Most beans will sprout if they have a good supply of air, light, and water. They don't need to have soil. Slide the beans between the jar and the paper. And finally, add some water. Put the jar in a sunny place, and if you watch it every day, this is what you should see. First, the hard skin of the bean splits. A tiny root appears. The root grows downwards, and a tiny shoot starts to grow. As the shoot grows upwards and small roots begin to spread out from the main root, the plant produces leaves. And from now on, the bean plant grows fast. When the bean plant gets too big for the jar, plant it in a pot or the garden with a stick to support it. Your very own beanstalk. Here's another quick project which is fun and easy to do. It's an unusual way to grow watercress. All you need are some empty eggshells, paints, some water, cotton batting, and watercress seeds, of course. Start by decorating the eggshells with faces. Once you've decorated the eggshells, take little balls of cotton batting and soak them in water. Then place them in the eggshells and sprinkle a few seeds over them. And that's all you have to do, except make sure to keep the cotton batting moist and put them in a sunny place to grow. And this is what should happen. In the winter, birds often run short of food. In this next project, we'll show you how to make birds some special treats to eat. Of course, you will benefit too, because it will give you a good chance to watch them. These are the things you will need. Scraps from the kitchen, such as breadcrumbs, rice, cooked vegetables, and birdseed, some cooking fat, a mixing bowl, a small saucepan and wooden spoon, a pine cone, twig, and old yogurt carton, a pair of scissors, string, and a large needle. First, let's make a special bird pudding. Here are all kinds of kitchen scraps that birds love to eat. Now mix the scraps together in a mixing bowl like this. Ask an adult to melt some lard in a saucepan over a low heat. Then, very carefully, as the fat will be very hot, pour the fat into the bowl and stir it all together. Once that's done, spoon the pudding mix into a yogurt carton. Then push a twig right into the pudding and leave it all to set. When your pudding is completely set, carefully pull it out of the yogurt carton and roll it in birdseed. Finally, tie a piece of string to the twig and it's finished, ready to hang up outside. All sorts of birds like to eat the seeds from pine cones. Their long beaks are very good at pecking the seeds out from between the woody scales. Why not give the birds a real treat by filling a pine cone with bird pudding like this? You could put bird pudding into all sorts of other containers. Here's a good idea. Ask an adult to drill some holes through a small log and screw a hook into the top. Then you can stuff the holes with bird pudding and hang it up outside. Nuts are very popular with birds, but they're also popular with other animals like squirrels, especially in winter. You can make a very simple nut feeder for birds that will keep the nuts out of reach of other animals. Put the nuts and all sorts of other scraps into a fine mesh bag, like this. You can get it from a supermarket. You can make notes and draw pictures of the different kinds of birds that come to eat from the feeders. Tie the top with a piece of string and it's ready to hang up outside. Another idea is to make holes in peanut shells and other nuts with a big needle. Then thread them onto string. Remember to tie a knot in the string first before you start threading. And do be careful with that needle. Tie a knot to finish it off. And it's ready to go outside. This next project has to do with trees. Trees are by far the largest plants in the world. There are thousands of different types, and most of them live a very long time. Here are the things you will need: colored paper, wax crayons, masking tape, and thumbtacks or push pins. All trees have three main parts: the crown, which is made up of the leaves and branches, the trunk, and the roots. Let's have a closer look at the trunks of trees and the bark which surrounds them. Different types of trees have different bark, each with their own pattern. You can keep a record of what sort of bark a tree has by taking a rubbing. All you need is some paper. It has to be thin and strong, otherwise you won't get a good result. Some thumbtacks or masking tape, and some wax crayons. Use the flat side of the wax crayons and rub them up and down the paper like this. When the paper is covered, unpin it and write the name of the tree, if you know it, on the back of the paper. You can mount your best rubbings in your nature diary. Here are some interesting rubbings. Take rubbings from leaves as well. Mount them in your nature diary. Here's a fascinating tree project. Bring some twigs indoors in winter. Put them in a jar of water and watch them burst into life much earlier than the trees outside. During the winter, broadleaf trees drop their leaves. The new leaves won't appear until the weather gets warmer and the daylight hours are longer. The first things to grow are the buds. Inside the buds, the young stems and leaves are protected from the cold. Watch the buds swell and begin to burst out of their scaly coverings. The new leaves begin to unfurl. To begin with, they are protected by a fluffy down. Then tiny flowers appear. New stems start to grow. And the leaves open out. There are all kinds of tiny creatures that live near you, whether in the garden or in the park. This project shows you how to catch them in simple pit traps. Then you can make notes and drawings about them, and afterwards return them safely to their natural surroundings. These are the things you will need: a square piece of board, 4 stones, an old pot and trowel, some scraps of food for bait, pieces of cheese, cookie crumbs, a piece of meat, and your nature diary and pencils. And this is what you need to do. Dig a small hole in the ground. Put the pot into it. Make the top level with the soil. Now put some bait into the trap. Now the stones. And the roof. The roof protects any trapped creatures from the hot sun, rain, or hungry animals. All set. Once your traps are set, leave them for a few hours. Check your pit traps often and write down what you find in your nature diary. And make drawings too. Try setting 2 or 3 traps using different baits such as cheese, meat, and fruit. Do different types of bait attract different creatures? You might attract different kinds of creatures by putting your traps in different locations. And you should be careful because some creatures might try to sting or bite when frightened. Now to make some drawings. What lessons we can learn about our insect neighbors. When you've finished your drawings, label them and return the creatures to their homes. A miniature garden in a bottle. Bottle gardens are ideal for plants that like damp places. And this project shows you how to make a mossy bottle garden of your own. These are the things you will need: a big glass bottle with a wide neck, some small pebbles or gravel, some crushed charcoal, some peat-based potting soil, moisture-loving plants such as ferns and mosses, a twig covered in lichen, a jug of water and a large spoon, and a plant mister. After making sure the bottle is clean and dry, start your bottle garden by pouring in a layer of pebbles. The pebbles are there for excess water to drain into. This stops the soil from becoming too soggy. Then add a thin layer of charcoal. Charcoal helps to keep the soil in good condition. Now cover these 2 layers with a deep layer of potting soil. And press the soil down firmly. Now you're ready to start planting. Use the spoon to dig a small hole. Then carefully pick up a plant and lower it into the bottle. Make sure the roots are covered with soil, and then use the spoon to pat it down. Now do the same with the other plants. And finish the garden off with a twig. When you have arranged all the plants, add a cupful of water. Spray the garden lightly with water from time to time to keep the soil moist. Once you have made the garden, put the bottle in a cool place where the light isn't too bright. If you add a lid, it will keep moisture inside. Then the garden will need hardly any more watering. Have you ever seen a caterpillar grow into a butterfly? This next project shows you how to make your own caterpillar house, so you can see for yourself how caterpillars grow into butterflies. Here are the things you will need: a plastic box with a lid, a chopping board, a big piece of cloth and paper towels, a pair of scissors, a paintbrush and plant mister, some leaves, twigs, and caterpillars. Ask an adult to cut a big hole out of the lid of your caterpillar house. Then cut a piece of cloth big enough to cover the top of the box and overlap around the edges. Then line the box with paper towels in both directions, like this. Spray them with water to dampen them. Then put in the leaves and twigs. Use a paintbrush to handle the caterpillars because they're quite delicate and easily harmed by rough treatment. The best time to look for caterpillars is in the spring and summer on the leaves of plants. When you find a caterpillar, pick a few of the leaves of the plant on which you find it. Now lay the cloth over the top. Put the lid on to hold the cloth in place. Your caterpillar house is ready. Always treat your caterpillars with care. Eventually, they change shape into a chrysalis. The chrysalis should form on a twig, so try not to disturb it. After a long wait of at least a week or more, a butterfly or moth will emerge from the chrysalis. When it does, it will be very delicate and will take several hours for its wings to dry and harden. You can set the butterfly free on a warm, sunny day. Keep a record of your caterpillar house in your nature diary. How long do your caterpillars take to change shape? Flowers are lovely to have in the home and garden, but all too often they are gone. There is a way of keeping flowers, by pressing them. This project will show you how. These are the things you will need: some flowers and leaves, thick, heavy books, blotting paper, colored cardboard, rubber-based glue, sometimes called rubber cement, cotton swabs, scissors, ruler, and a pencil. And this is what you do. Start by folding the blotting paper down the middle. The blotting paper will soak up all the moisture from the flowers to stop them from becoming a mushy mess. The blotting paper will need to be about the same size as the book when it is open. If the paper is too big, cut it down to the right size. And now you are ready to arrange the flowers. Only put them on one side of the paper and leave plenty of space between them. Now fold the other half of the paper on top of the flowers and close the book. Put some more heavy books on top to really make sure that the flowers are pressed as flat as possible. Leave the plants until they are completely dry and flat. This could take a week or two. And then completely flat and dry, but just as pretty as the fresh flowers. And this is what you can do with them. Let's make a flower picture first. Now some glue. You could make a bookmark and a gift tag. Pick flowers with flat faces, like these polyanthus, violets, and daisies, and press them as quickly as you can so they keep their color well. The soil is home to all sorts of tiny animals, like worms. Worms are always busy burrowing. And as they burrow, they mix the soil up, which keeps it in good condition. You can watch what worms do by making a simple worm farm. These are the things you will need: a glass jar, a trowel, some soil and sand, some dried leaves, a plant mister, a dark cloth, and a bowl. And this is what to do. Start by putting a layer of soil in, like this. Spray a little water over it, and then add a layer of sand. Then soil, then sand, then soil, more water. Now add some worms. Remember that worms like to live underground in cool, dark conditions, so leave them in the open for as little time as possible. And finally, add a layer of dead leaves. Wrap the farm in a dark cloth so the worms will think they are underground. Leave the worms for a few days, then look and see how they have tunneled through the soil and sand. Eventually, they should mix all the sand, soil, and leaves together. Let's leave them to it. There are all kinds of animal tracks to be found outdoors. And in this project, we will show you how to take plaster casts of any interesting tracks you may find. Here are the things you will need: a trowel, paper clips and long strips of cardboard, a bowl, plaster of Paris and a wooden spoon, a toothbrush, some newspaper, and a bottle of water. And this is what you do. Find a print, ideally in wet mud. Then take a strip of cardboard and bend it into a circle. It should be big enough to go right around the print, and clip it to hold it in shape. Push it into the mud. Now mix up some plaster of Paris. Carefully pour about 2 inches of plaster into the cardboard ring and leave it to set. It should take about 15 minutes. When it is set, dig up the plaster cast and the mud around it. Wrap the cast in newspaper. Take it home and leave it for a day to set hard. The next day, unclip the card and scrub the cast clean with an old toothbrush and water. As you can see, the finished cast is a raised copy of the animal's footprint. And that's how to take a plaster cast. The best places to look for animal tracks are in mud and wet sand. Well, there are just a few of the things to do with nature that should keep you busy and are great fun to do. Do keep your own nature diary. It will be a permanent record of all your nature activities. When collecting things, only take what you need. Never pick rare plants. Leave things in the wild as you found them. Never disturb nesting birds or steal birds' eggs. Be gentle with any creatures that you catch. Set them free when you've finished a project. Why don't you start collecting things for one of the projects right away?
Did you ever wonder how fingerprinting's done? How a pizza's made, or how a rainy sky meets a rainbow with the sun? Well, we can show you ways to find the answers for yourself, using stuff right from your shelf.
And with remote control,
You control the action,
stop and go.
having fun with my first
Step-by-step activity videos.
Discover a whole new world of fun with my first activity video series. Among the many titles you'll want to explore are my first cooking video, my first science video, my first nature video, and of course, my first activity video. Also, if you'd like to join the Sony Kids Music and Video Fan Club and receive a free newsletter and catalog, please send us your name, address, age, the name of this tape, and where you bought it. Write to us at Sony Kids Music and Video, Post Office Box 4450, Mail Drop 51-4, New York, New York, 10101.